Why don't we jump right into our first topic, the worst news? To be clear, we're not American, so theoretically this sort of doesn't affect us or something.
But we're Canadian, so it also definitely does.
Yeah, and, you know, America with its outsized reach in the world.
Means it kind of affects everybody.
The U.S. government is continuing to debate the Restrict Act, which has been broadly characterized as an attempt to ban TikTok, which, you know, has some merit, I guess, if you were to look at it from a certain point of view.
Data collection and stuff like that.
It's, you know, turning the minds of the youth into sponges or whatever I'll think of the children argument you might form around that general idea. However, the language of the act never mentions TikTok directly and is in fact far, far broader. The Restrict Act proposes to grant the Commerce Department additional investigative and punitive powers regarding all information and telecom companies connected to a foreign adversary if they pose undue and unacceptable risk to U.S. national security or U.S. citizens.
Whatever that means.
That is very truly broad, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's vague as you could possibly have it.
Wow, that's broader than...
Barn.
I mean, yeah, I was...
The broad side of it.
Yeah, very broad.
Yep.
Okay. The foreign adversaries included in the act are China, Cuba... Okay, Cuba?
Are we still against?
Yeah,
are we still against Cuba?
Buried this hatchet?
I actually thought they had until you said Cuba, and I read it at the same time. I was like, oh.
Iran, Russia, and Venezuela, but that list could be expanded in the future. Corporate entities focused on tech that are based out of these countries will face additional scrutiny, including potential fines and total bans. Language targeting third parties that aid in the subversion of these penalties has raised concerns that the act may be used to ban VPNs and to fine or even imprison those who use them. Okay, so here's the thing. The problem with legislation, right, is not what they do. It's what they write down that they could do and then slowly frog boil over time. That's why there's so much concern over this. A spokesperson for the primary sponsor of the bill has stated, this legislation is aimed squarely at companies like Kaspersky, Huawei, and TikTok that create systemic risks to the United States national security, not at individual users. The threshold for criminal penalty in this bill is incredibly high, too high to ever be concerned with the actions of an individual user of TikTok or a VPN. Now, here's the problem with that, and I'm deviating from the script a little bit here, but we had a lot of the same conversations around Bill C-10, which became Bill C-11, which I don't even know what it's called anymore, here in Canada, where they kind of went, oh, well, no, we're never going to do anything like that. It'll never restrict an individual user's ability to
If that's
upload.
the case, that needs to be written into the law.
That's right.
Yeah.
So fine, put your money where your mouth is, and if it isn't a concern, then write that down.
Yeah.
The federal governments of the US and Canada, as well as NATO and the EU, have all banned TikTok from official devices on the basis of cybersecurity concerns. More likely, they're just wasting time on it. Staff are likewise being advised to remove the app from private devices. France, on the other hand, has simply banned all recreational apps from official devices, rather than TikTok specifically, because I guess the French are just more direct. Anywho. One concern raised, to be clear, I'm not saying that the way that TikTok, ByteDance, the way that TikTok's parent company is collecting information is not mass surveillance of foreign nationals. I am not saying that that's not a thing. I'm just saying that I'm not convinced that TikTok was suddenly what made it a concern.
It might be both.
But the concern raised by U.S. officials is, this is back on script, is that the Chinese government could press ByteDance into revealing information for use in state intelligence operations. And while there's no indication that the Chinese government was involved, 4 employees from ByteDance were fired after using TikTok data to track the location of journalists and cross-reference their location with that of employees suspected of leaking information to the press. Cute. Several commentators have criticized singling out TikTok when the majority of American corporations collect massive amounts of data from American consumers, and the American government has repeatedly been caught buying that information from them. Likewise, TikTok is far from unique in its impact on the mental health of teenagers, another focus of the debate in Congress.
All of that seems extremely fair.
So, discussion question. Is this a threat to personal liberties or a necessary restriction on foreign intelligence operations? I guess if it was a more trustworthy entity that was saying, hey, we really need to stop these foreign governments from spying on our citizens, I'd be like, all right.
I 100% believe that foreign governments, and I say that for everyone anywhere, if that makes sense. So, like, if you are China in this situation,
sure, yeah,
I would say the exact same words. I 100% believe foreign governments, just place yourself anywhere, the statement's still true, are going to use this type of stuff to gain information on what is going on in your country. We're talking about spy balloons in the U.S.
Sure, yep.
You think the U.S. isn't spying on other people?
How do you know what a spy balloon looks like?
Mine looks like a whale.
Do you have your own spy balloons?
Yeah, like it's happening in both directions, and I'm not saying anything about that. But
it's basically Civ.
Yeah,
you know, it's like the diplomat gets caught doing espionage.
One of the options is to ask them to not do it anymore, and that does nothing in the game. If you've played Civ before, the player just gets to decide, like, do I care about this?
Do I kick them out? Which, by the way, also does nothing.
Yeah. So, like,
cool.
It is what it is. So, like, is there potential that China would use TikTok data to gain information? Yeah, sure. Is there potential that, like, U.S. companies might be used to gain information from somewhere else? Yeah, sure. I don't know. This is if I was a person in power for one of these countries, this would be something I would be concerned about. I would not write into my bill that I can, like, super destroy any citizen that happens to use a VPN.
Or better yet, you could specifically write into your bill that you can't do that.
Totally.
That might be even better.
Yeah. So, like, there's other ways to go around it. I don't think the concern is unfounded, though, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely not. And along these same lines, like if the entire impetus for this is data collection, data control, right? Because that's clearly what has actually started this debate.
And we see stuff.
VPN usage is absolutely something that is, even if it's not part of the conversation out in the open, is part of the conversation behind closed doors. Because while a VPN, and we've made this very clear, is not the be-all and end-all of being secure online, it is a tool in your toolbox that can increase your anonymity online.
It's one of the layers of Swiss cheese.
Yes, one of the many, many layers that you should be using if you actually want to achieve any kind of anonymity. Sorry, what were you going to say? I think I cut you off there.
We saw, like, this is only tangentially related, but something that's been very interesting in the conflict in Ukraine is seeing the social media usage of both sides and the very direct ramifications of such. Controlling information is, like, incredibly, insanely valuable. And when people are posting photos or videos or whatever else, it can be super, super bad. Data is huge. Even just turning the mic on a device could be a massive advantage. Someone sent me a link today to a vulnerability. I don't know if it ended up in the doc or not, but I wanted to kind of mention it because coming off of last week, I just thought this would be kind of interesting to bring up. But an attack that I heard of a long time ago was the ability to be able to tell what keys were pressed by listening through a microphone. So you have nothing connected to the computer. You just have a microphone in the room.
We discussed that on Wan's show back when the set was way on the other side of like the 104 building or something like that.
The problem more recently, I think this was as of, I don't know because I didn't look into it a ton. I think it's 1 year, 4 months, somewhere around there, is they just, like, not only is it open source, but they, like, made a website for it. So it's, like, really easy to do. And a pretty big attack vector for that could, like, the first thing I kind of thought of was, like, streamers.
Right.
Because now you're massively like, yeah, the vulnerability exists, but there's a bunch of vulnerabilities exist that like no one really uses. But making a website where people can use it really easily means that the level required to be able to use it just dropped. Same with like cheaters in video games.
This is such an interesting conversation, and one that we could probably spend the next 3.5 hours on. I mean, we did a video on the Flipper Zero this week. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tanner was working on it, and it's the kind of device that honestly we could do an entire week's worth of videos on. You could review it as a penetration testing device. You could review it from just like you could put it on channel Superfun and review it from a mischief kind of device perspective. You could review it as a gaming device. I mean, it's chock full of games. You could push the boundaries of it. You could go get custom add-ons. I mean, it has GPIO pins, right? You could review all the different add-ons.
Changed the displayed price of gas using them.
So
it doesn't actually change the actual price, but
so we had to kind of decide on an angle because we can't cover it from every possible perspective. And what we ultimately settled on was, is it a tool or is it a weapon? Was sort of the overarching question that we were asking as we made our way through what it is, what it can do, and what our position is on it. Because there's arguments that you can make either way. On the one hand, sure, let's talk about the gas station price changing, right? So it uses whatever it is, like sub-gigahertz band communication, and so it allows you to sniff and then replicate these commands that change the gas station price. You could kind of look at that and go, well, if your system was so insecure that you're not even using rolling codes, right? Like it's less secure than a garage door opener, which we all know is dog shit in terms of security, right? Well, then take it as a wake-up call, right? To harden your security and update that module from 1973, right? That you're using to update the thing. Sure. So you can come at it from that perspective and there's a really good argument to be made here, right? If someone came along with real skills, not some, whatever the hardware hacking device equivalent of a script kiddie is, right? Let's call them a hack device kiddie, right? So if someone comes along who really wants to hit you, the fact that hack kiddie came along and beep, 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 changed your sign and forced you to harden your security a little bit might actually be a good thing, because even if your security is still sort of the best you can do as some boomer gas station owner, it's not about necessarily having a perfect lock. It's about having a better lock than your neighbor's door in many cases.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
It's not false.
It's like running away from the bear.
Well,
you don't have to be faster than the bear.
I'm going to counter this being true actually really quick.
Sure. You just got to be faster than the other guy.
He's going to be mildly upset. I think pretty soon it's not going to matter at all.
Like what?
There will be enough arms that they'll just catch both of you. There was a demo at DEF CON, I don't remember when, where they had a circle of servers and they had AI running on the servers and they had like a capture the flag hack contest between all of them and they fought each other automated using AI. And that was a bit ago. The future of cybersecurity using AI is going to be insane. And everything's going to be automated. They're going to be hitting everything at the same time.
Sure.
So if your neighbor and your lock both suck, but yours is better, they're both broken.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair. Where I was ultimately getting to here was there's the argument to be made that the wake-up call to harden your security is probably a good thing, even if there's another exploit that someone more skilled could absolutely use to get past you.
Yeah.
And the example that we use is that there's this other, from Great Scott Gadgets, there's this other hacker device that actually can defeat rolling code implementations of the gas station sign changer. So even though the Flipper Zero can defeat these extremely basic ones, and it's starting this conversation, and it's inconvenient for the owners of these gas stations, it's overall a good thing.
At least that conversation's starting.
And the Flipper Zero is actually specifically designed to not be able to defeat rolling code ones. So it's more like a basic pen testing doodad and less like a serious hacking device.
Which is really good to have in the hands of people because of the reasons you were just talking about.
However, the flip side of that argument is that there is still extremely dangerous things that a ne'er-do-well, or even not a ne'er-do-well, just a particularly committed individual could do with a device like that.
Even just the gas station one, because like if you own the gas station across the street and you just keep making theirs look more expensive, like you could cause genuine actual harm.
Well, I was talking more in terms of like the way that the Flipper Zero can be used to access apartment buildings that have older NFC access systems.
Yeah.
And, you know, for the average prankster, so what? What, they go in, they tag the mailboxes or something like that. It's really inconvenient and unnecessarily costly. But if it's in the hands of someone like an ex-husband.
Yeah. Some stalker. There's been a bunch of stalkers in like the...
And that argument that like, well, it's good that these devices are out there and everywhere because it's the wake-up call. We all need to harden our security. But someone who's running away from an abusive relationship and is staying in some craptastic apartment
might not feel that way.
Is not in any position to change the security systems of the apartment building.
Yeah.
That's actually not within their power in any way. And now these tools are everywhere. And so it's kind of like what you were saying about this keyboard tool. It's like, on the one hand, yeah, it's good that we're raising the profile of these attack vectors so that people are more mindful of them. But on the other hand, even though you're right, that was an attack vector that already existed, just like the changing gas stations thing could have been done for $10,
totally.
15 years ago with some part off of Amazon.
Laptop and some hardware.
The rolling code one's been defeated for 6 years by that Great Scott Gadgets one or whatever. Just because these vectors have existed for a long time doesn't mean that they're in the hands of like your jackass, ex-husband.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a...
By the way, if streamers are freaking out about the password thing, and if you do have to type in passwords on stream, the thing that I've thought of so far that I think is the most hilarious to defeat this, and I like going with the rule of cool, is make a stream deck thing, assuming you have one. That's a big assumption. Oh, well. You can make some soundboard or whatever. Make some type of way to mute your microphone and play a recorded sound and just record yourself typing in something that's like funny.
Yeah.
And then use that, type in your password, and then hopefully it ends and unmutes you soon enough. And I think it just like screw off whatever. Just have that be what's typed in. I think that'd be entertaining.
But I think that's expecting a lot.
It is. And not being able to type in passwords on stream is crazy. And like some people are going to be like, oh, like you shouldn't do that anyways. I don't mean having it on screen.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows you shouldn't.
But people are going to stream for 13 hours and they're probably going to have to type in a password to something.
Looking at you, XQC.
Yeah, but like for real, like he might have to sign into something at some point. So like I actually think, and it's been out for a while, this isn't new or anything, but just thought I should bring it up because I wasn't personally aware that there was like a site for this and the usability just went through the roof.
Sec It Guy says, this conversation is pissing me off. You can buy PCB printers right now. You're arguing against advancement. If they're motivated enough, they will get in. That's actually not true, though.
It's Sec IT Guy, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I know. Oh. I was just
messing
like
with him?
Okay. But that's actually not true. I mean, in the bubble that you presumably live in, maybe every single person you know would be capable of defeating some kind of building security system.
This might be true.
With just like stuff that they buy off of, Adafruit and Amazon or whatever, right? Maybe that's true. But in the broader world, like just that jerk stalker that you went to high school with, like is probably just like, not probably, but is possibly just a slack-jawed idiot that could never figure that out. In 1,000 years would never figure it out.
There's even similar conversations with hardware locks. The main reason why I'm bringing this up is just because there's often this situation where like people that are into software don't trust software locks, and people that are into hardware like they don't trust software locks, so they want hardware locks, and the people that are into hardware don't trust hardware locks, so they want software locks, and it's like blah. Stuff like access to bump keys and high quality lockpicks and everything has never been anywhere close to how it is now. Like the prevalence of security tools for pen testing, but also being able to get through some aged systems has never been quite as common. And that's why I think I've also never heard as many people talking about like Swiss cheese style security approaches.
Right.
And home security and stuff like that, is because we are in like a relatively sketchy time when it comes to that type of stuff.
Yeah. And so like, again, so you'll see in the Flipper Zero video, we ultimately make the argument that the existence of the Flipper Zero is a net positive. But it's also important for us to consider that the widespread availability of these tools, whether be they software or be they hardware or some combination of the two, is not necessary. Is good. It seems like a good thing until you're the one with a stalker who broke into your apartment.
Yeah.
And did it with something that they bought for $20 on Amazon. When 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they would have had to go and build up the skill set to craft it themselves, which they probably wouldn't have done, because as we've seen with security,
difficulty levels are extremely important.